toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Wow, that sounds like a party.
What is happening, ladies
Sounds like
and
you might
gentlemen?
have had a party already.
Welcome to this fine. Hey, we playoff football this weekend. Welcome to this fine radio program, a podcast and video extravaganza known internationally as the world famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand rolled cigars. And I am so excited for today because, and I'm not just saying this, and back me up. I don't say this to everybody that comes on. Absolutely one of my favorite breweries in the world is Pint Brewery.
He's been raving about this.
And we have Blake Niederhofer from Lone Pint is joining us today.
So happy to be here,
Blake,
guys. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. So I got to tell my Lone Pint story because how I became even aware of these guys. There was a restaurant in uptown Houston that the company used to do some business with, and I was in there once, and I was just looking for a beer to have with my meal, and I was looking, I didn't recognize much of the beers that were on the list, but I was like, I'll try the IPA, and as it turns out, it was Lone Pint's Yellow Rose IPA, and it like blew my mind, because I've been an IPA fan for a long time.
You actually called me.
I did.
And told me about it.
I did. I said, I've sure tried this beer. So then we hunted it down. It wasn't as easy to find in stores and stuff back then as it is now.
That's right. For a long time, it was very tough to find.
But we hunted it down and found it, and I've been a fan ever since. And we've had Lone Pint on the show before. The gentleman's name slips my mind that was on with us, but it was when you and I did the show at the New Potato, and I was so excited, leading up to the show about they have the best IPA ever, and then he didn't bring it, which was fine. We had plenty
which is the name of that program, by the way.
That is the name of that show.
Best IPA ever,
Best
and they
IPA
didn't bring it.
and they didn't bring it. Yeah, but we did have fun. That's the show. Ian, you tell the story better than I do. So I guess it was was it the brewmaster?
No, because we talked about this. And,
yeah, it may have been my brother Trevor.
It might have been.
Yeah,
it might have been.
But I'm not sure. I don't remember that exactly.
It was actually pretty funny because he brought everything was in bomber bottles.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been a while then.
And some of it was like, I guess he just pulled some straight out of the brewery and brought it with him.
Well, and we'd had already on the show, by the time this happened, we'd had 3, maybe 4 that were just really outstanding for whatever they were.
And he brings it on. He brought a couple of the standards, and then he was like, "Oh, here's some stuff that we've got going on now." And I don't remember what all they were. I'd have to go back and look at the show, but it was pretty funny because one of them he pours for us and he gives it to us, and we take a sip, and we're like, we're trying to be nice about it. It's like, it's not kind of up to par with the rest of them. And he goes, yeah, I don't like that one either.
I think he was trying to keep us honest, to see if we just blow smoke up his butt the whole time.
Oh, I love all of these.
Yeah. Oh, everything's good. Well, and there's stuff I like that other people don't like.
That was pretty funny.
So you never know. But anyway, it's really exciting, though, to have you on. You guys have come out with a lot of stuff. I say a lot of stuff for you. You guys don't necessarily put out a beer every Wednesday.
That's right. I mean, we have a little bit larger system and a little bit different. I mean, we are set up more as a manufacturing brewery. We don't do a new beer every week, but we do have quite a few new things that are that we're working on, and several that we've released recently, some of which I have here today. So.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to trying all of it and talking about I really see you guys, even though you're not like an Ingenious, for example, that puts out new beers all the time. It's kind of what they do. I still see you guys as being very innovative in what you choose to put out, and what I see whenever I see another Lone Pint in the store that I haven't seen before, I immediately know it's not going to be what I would necessarily have expected. It's not like, okay, well, we don't have a lager, so here's a lager. For example, it's usually something like, oh, interesting, a Scotch ale or whatever. So
well, one of the things that was always big for us is we just wanted to make beers that we wanted to drink, and so we don't usually chase fads or things. And we've gotten a hard time because we don't make a pastry beer or a New England style IPA.
that when you look at your beer menu, it's not just IPA. Oh, here's something different for those of you who don't just love IPAs.
Right. Yeah.
Because so many places are just so IPA centric, and I get it. It's popular. You got to have a good IPA, and you guys do. You have outstanding
we have a
IPA.
few.
And then there's other places that are,
But-
heavily into sours or
Right.
whatever. But you guys really mix it up. I never know what to expect your next beer to be. Is I guess the best way to say it. So
Well, it's always fun to experiment, but we kind of laugh and call ourselves the Bluebell Brewery. We drink all we can and sell the rest. So
love that.
we're certainly not making anything that we don't want to drink.
Absolutely love that. Well, I look forward to doing the tasting. We're also, Ian, going to be tasting a little tequila today. I have brought along a bottle of Corzo Tequila Anejo, made and bottled, of course, in Jalisco, Mexico. So we have that to look for. Are you playing the tequila song? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, good. Good, you're on it today.
I'm doing what I can.
We will talk about a number of things, including, and I'm really glad you're here because I want to get your take on this. I think New Belgium Brewery, which I really like, by the way. I love their Voodoo Ranger series, and Fat Tire has always been a favorite.
1554.
Yeah, I think these guys are about to make a massive mistake, and I want to see if you think so. As a fellow brewer, I want to see if you think so as well. You probably know what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure, so I'm definitely interested to see where we go with this.
All right, very good. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about new pricey cigars from EP Carrillo, as in really pricey.
I don't seen it.
Yeah, and
like $21.
yeah, maybe even more.
Oh, okay.
Maybe even more. Plus, we'll have our what has evolved into the most popular segment on this program. It's a little something we do late in the show called Drinking News. Drinking News is, of course, a collection of stories, usually one at a time, but it's stories from the news that really happened somewhere, and they are often, but not always, about drinking. But they are always best to listen to if you've been drinking, and by that time we will have been. So it's a good placement for where it comes into the show. Our Drinking News teaser headline for today: What's new, Pikachu? All right, so we have that to look forward to. So, and with a build-up like that, how can you not, right?
You want to play?
I'm good.
So normally I would play guitar, but guitar has a little too much gravitas for the moment.
Yeah, no, I'm digging the ukulele. This is great.
Whiskey Heroes on Twitter have been banding together and ferreting out whiskey counterfeiters, which is actually a cool thing. Whiskey scammers, so that's kind of a cool thing. And Penderin Irish Whiskey gives Vladimir Putin the finger. We'll tell you about that story as well as we get into today's edition of Smokin' and Toastin'. And, of course, as we like to do around this time on the program, I generally will pick Ian's brain to see if there's anything he's smoked this week that has been particularly interesting.
Well, let me tell you, Cruze. This morning I went to my humidor, and I reached in and grabbed a cigar that was given to me by you.
Okay, let me stop you. This is the cigar that I raved about last week, right?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to be real curious to see. And I'm going to say this before you go any further. I'm going to be real curious because I had bought a box of those, smoked the one that I reviewed and raved about on the show last week, and I've since smoked a few more, and a couple of them were very, very poor draw. And that
interesting.
Goes against everything that I said about how well the cigar was constructed. So I was curious because I didn't know if the one I brought in for you would be like that and you'd have a bad experience.
I know that like last week when you reviewed it, and I participated and listened to your review, and then we drank. So I made sure that like I drank enough to forget completely what you said.
Okay, good.
As I do most weeks, but I mean this week
That's
in particular.
always the best plan, by the way.
Try to
If you're
obliterate
drinking,
from my mind.
try to drink enough.
I don't know
that
what
you
happened
can
on the
forget
show.
everything I said. Please do.
No, so I didn't go back and listen to any of that section of the show, because sometimes I'll go back and listen to the show, just for fun, because I like to put my podcast in the background and use it for mood, or whatever.
Like when it's sexy time and stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
nice,
Yeah, I got it.
And put it on in the car and get in the back seat. You know what I mean? Anyway, so
It's a very, very white day.
It's a very mental image. Very
So,
distinct mental image. So
So anyway, I intentionally didn't listen to it this week because I didn't want to be any more influenced by it.
Sure.
I knew you raved about it. I didn't want to be any more influenced by it, but I didn't want to remember like the flavors and things that you said
Right.
because I wanted to kind of have my own take on it. So I waited all the way until this morning and did this. So this was my father, Jaime Garcia Reserva.
The Toro.
Reserva
Especial.
Especial, that's the word I was looking for. And it was the Toro size at 6x54 with a Connecticut broadleaf Maduro wrapper, an Ecuadorian binder, and a Nicaraguan filler. The appearance, dark chocolate hue, oily, veiny, somewhat lumpy, single band, firm feel overall. The pre-light sniff on this, I got barnyard, I got chocolate, I got hay, I got coffee. So like kind of standard things that you get from that Connecticut broadleaf Maduro.
Yep. So I'm looking back at my notes. I had hickory wood, coffee, and a hint of chocolate.
Yeah. The initial light, I got a punch of sweet, a punch of spice and sweet coffee, followed by bitter chocolate and cinnamon. The retro hail is sweet and spicy.
Mm-hmm.
The first third of this, sweet coffee, dark bitter chocolate, earth, backed by a bevy of spices, including cinnamon, a little nutmeg, a little cayenne, and black pepper. The retro hail is sweet with some pepper and cinnamon. Solid ash, good burn. The second third of this cigar, balancing on a line between sweet and spicy, the cigar delivers a robust blend of flavors and a pleasant aromatic room note. The lingering aftertaste is sweet as a spicy pepper and cayenne. Earthy and nutty tones begin to emerge. Hints of underlying salted caramel appear as well. Retro hail is peppery, spicy, cedar, and cinnamon. Solid ash, good burn. Now, this got a good burn all the way through. It was not a perfect burn.
Yeah.
It burned okay. Towards the last third of this cigar, the burn got a little bit uneven. I hit it for a second with my lighter. I didn't even count that against it. It was just one of those things.
Just a little touch-up. Yep.
But the last third of this, pepper and spices back off a bit, which is a little weird because towards the end of a cigar, usually those things ramp up. But the pepper and spices backed off a bit, leaving room for sweeter and nuttier flavors. Chocolate and coffee, along with rich earth and salted caramel, enliven the palate with a peppery and woody finish. The retro hail is sweet cedar with pepper and cinnamon. Solid ash, good burn. At $8.50 for this, I gave it a solid 7. That was
what I gave it.
That is an inexpensive cigar for $8.50 that delivered a lot of flavor. And at that size, that's a long burn. That was an hour and 15 minutes for me. Almost 20 minutes.
Yep. So you said basically much the same as what I said in my review last week. You just said it a lot better. So
I use bigger words.
Yeah,
so sometimes my words have 2 and 3 syllables in them.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Right.
I think you should continue with that. That's working. When we review cigars, we use what we call the price to quality scale. It's a 1 to 10 scale, but giving a cigar a 5 is a very good rating. It means you got exactly what you paid for. So if it's an $8 cigar and you're happy based on what else you can get for $8,
Sure.
You're happy with it at that price, then it scores a 5. If it maybe overperformed a little bit at that price, smoked more like a $10, $12 cigar, then you give it a higher rating. You can smoke a really good, expensive cigar and really enjoy it, but it was $15 and it's hard to justify that it was worth $15 instead of maybe 2 $7 cigars or whatever. So that's the way the price to quality works. So to give something a 7, that's
pretty big.
What was the price on this again? This is
$8.50.
$8. So that's a pretty big. It's tough for a cigar that isn't an El Cheapo that winds up being great to score that high on the scale. So.
I'm a little sad to hear though that since you bought a box, you had a couple of them that had a bad draw on.
Yeah, that I had to use a poker to get them to
because I don't
draw
usually
well.
get that with any of my father's
I
cigars.
know.
Like my father's are like,
and this is after I had
solid.
raved about the construction on this one and how great
they're
it was.
solid, man.
Yeah. So I've smoked a couple that had problems, and I've smoked another one that didn't. So. I didn't know whether it was maybe half the box. I didn't know if the one that I brought you would be one of the good ones.
Now I will also tell you, how long have you had that box?
I don't think I've had it for more than about a month.
Okay.
So they're sitting in my humidor now, and they may even out.
I've found a few times, depending on where you get them from, there's some places where when they ship them, they're a little over humidified, I think.
Yeah.
And I've had draw issues and burn issues from that, and then find that leave them in the humidor for a couple weeks. And I run my humidor a little on the drier side. I run it 65-ish.
Oh, okay.
Instead of up higher. Because I find that I like my cigars smoking around then. Smoking around that humidity a little bit better. But so sometimes just putting it in a humidor for a couple weeks and letting it kind of
Letting it
sequence.
kind of mellow.
Equal.
Yeah.
And if you get a box like that and they're all in the cellophane, and you want them to adapt a little faster, you may take them out of the cellophane.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I smoked a cigar this week that was a gift from my mother-in-law at Christmas time. And so it's always a mixed bag, right? When someone like your mom-in-law buys you cigars, because they
She is
generally
such a sweet lady, by the way.
she's awesome. She's awesome. They generally don't know that much about them, right? So they'll go into the cigar shop and they'll say, "Hey, I'm getting this for my son-in-law, and he loves cigars, and what do you recommend?" And now you're at the complete mercy of the person who's recommending, because she wouldn't know whether that's something that I would like or not. She's taking his word for it. So, fortunately, I believe she went to Serious Cigars.
So,
Casa de Monte Cristo.
Just to pause that for a second and add to that situation. A lot of times when you go into a cigar shop, unless you get unless you have like a crappy cigar shop that's just trying to push cigars out the door, which I don't run into a lot of those.
No.
Generally speaking, they want you to come back and buy cigars. So when they sell you that cigar, they're going to sell something that they think you're going to like.
So here's what I need to do: is I need to tell her this is the answer when they say, "What kind of cigars does he like?" and give them an example. And then they'll know
LFD
exactly.
chisel every single time.
Exactly. The quorum. That's what I like. Anyway, so as it turns out, they did not steer her wrong. She gave me a nice little package of cigars, and one of them was the one that I smoked this week to talk about on the show. And it is the Monte Cristo signature Espada.
Oh, the Espadas.
And the
nice.
Espadas are a very limited one. They come only in the Toro size. It's an all Nicaraguan Puro that looks, at first glance, very much like the Monte Cristo White. So it's Monte Cristo White's a very good but very mild smoke for those who like great flavor but don't want a more full-bodied smoke. I mentioned that just to say, don't pick this up and assume that it's a mild cigar, because
the
it's
Espada's big.
Yeah, right. But with the Monte Cristo signature Espada, you can find yourself in for a full-bodied surprise if you were expecting something lighter. So I'll go ahead and give this much away. If you like your smokes to pack a punch, you're going to like the Espada. The cigar was developed by Rafael Nodal along with the Plasencia family. The tobacco is all Nicaraguan, with the wrapper a Colorado Claro from the Jalapa region, and binder and filler tobacco are from Esteli, all put together out at the Plasencia factory for Monte Cristo. It's a 6x55 Toro, very pretty cigar, as you can see over here, or is it here? Mine was nice and smooth with a few noticeable veins in the Colorado Claro wrapper. I picked up notes of dark chocolate and a deep earthiness on the pre-light sniff. Used a punch to open it up, and the cold draw gave me a rich bread note, along with a hint of vanilla, which I thought was really interesting. So I was like, oh, so far so good. I lit the foot with a torch and took the first few puffs, only to be greeted by my old friend, that friend without a song, the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast. Ian, maybe I can help you out a little getting started on doing this song.
One day that song will happen.
So I just thought I'd take a new idea, since I tried my Barry Gibb impression, and that didn't seem to inspire you.
That will actually make you go blind in one ear.
So well, how about a little Dire Straits? How about like, I want my NPB. No? Okay, yeah, probably best that you don't. Once the MPB planted its flag, just like the little guy in the MTV thing, and settled down a little bit, the cigar gave me notes of cedar and leather with a hint of citrus zest and a little bit of that vanilla that I was getting on the pre-light, which was awesome. While pepper, cedar, and a developing note of baker's bread, a very yeasty, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but a very yeasty sort of baker's bread.
I think it gets your point across.
Yeah.
That's a good
they were dominant flavors to the cigar. Plenty of other notes, though, weaved in and out as it smoked. By the second third, I was picking up earth and some leather, along with a slight minerality that was very pleasant. Construction was very good, was not a razor-straight burn, but it was nothing that needed to be corrected. I flicked off the ash at about 1.5 inches, but it looked like it might have held on a lot further. I just wasn't going to press my luck. At about the midpoint, the pepper backed off just a little bit, and although there was still plenty on the palate and it was dominant in the retrohale, I would say that compared to like a My Father or something from A.J. Fernandez from Nicaragua, which have a tendency to build in pepperiness as they smoke, this one actually kind of mellowed a little bit and started to exhibit a creaminess that offset the pepper a little bit as it smoked. The final third stayed creamy, but the pepper ramped back up a little bit. The leather and a distinct earthiness became more noticeable, and the vanilla note kind of came and went several times. Construction remained very good. The cigar smoked well all the way through. Draw, by the way, was perfect with lots of creamy smoke. The cigar reminded me very much of a Plasencia, which makes sense, of course, because it was made in the Plasencia factory. A little creamier, less strength forward than many Nicaraguan cigars, although to be fair, the strength ramped up from medium in the first third to just above that in the second, and it was decidedly full-bodied by the final third. So, Monte Cristo's signature Espada was a great slow smoking cigar. It just lasted a while, and if you try one of these, I recommend saving it for when you have the opportunity to have a very leisurely smoke, because it'll reward you. If this were an $8 cigar, I'd be buying a box right now and stocking the humidor with something that differs a little bit from my other Nicaraguan favorites, and it would be nice for whenever I wanted to change a pace but didn't want to go milder. But it's not an $8 cigar. It's a $15 cigar. So thank you, Mom.
Wow.
Yes, it was wonderful.
So I just looked up. I had the Espada Oscuro.
That's the darker one, which is the previous, like from a couple years ago release, I think.
Yeah, this was a couple years ago, and I gave that one a solid 6 at $11.
Interesting. All right, so this one's 15. So by the time I was into the final third, I was thinking it'd be hard to give this a 5, given that it's basically 2 of the $7 to $8 sticks that I normally are in my sweet spot. But it was during that final third that I really kind of was struck by a sense of how much I just really enjoyed the whole experience of smoking this one. When we talk about the part of cigars that they don't talk about that are good for you, that when you just relax and kind of let everything go and your heartbeat slows down, you have that sense of well-being, it's peaceful. That's what the smoking experience was. And, I don't always get that every single time I smoke a cigar to that degree. And I really had a wonderful, chill experience with this, and it made me reevaluate it a little bit. I really loved savoring the flavors on my palate. And even though I was stopping to type down these notes, it was a really chill, kind of relaxing thing, and I enjoyed it. With that in mind, I'm going to recommend the cigar maybe as a good special occasion smoke at that price. It was, in the end, really, really good. So price to quality, I will give it a solid 5.
Nice.
So and you know what? I would have given it a 6 had it been in the $12 range, I think, which is where yours was. So this one's a little more. But it's interesting, though, because I don't know if I would have picked the cigar up off of the display myself. It didn't have that this looks brand new, haven't tried this before sort of look to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I loved it.
We've been doing this show for a while. Mm-hmm. What episode are we on now?
311 today.
311 episodes. That's halfway to 333.
It really is
at this point. If you do the math.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of cigars.
Yeah.
I'm finding, as much as I love Casa de Monte Cristo, and it's right around the corner from here, I'm finding that occasionally I have to go to other humidors
to find some things that they didn't,
that I just haven't seen.
Right, exactly.
So
yeah. Well, anyway, highly recommended and worth it if you're looking to splurge on a slightly pricier cigar. It's a good one if you want to just sit and contemplate, solve the world's problems. That's what I did when I smoked it. I solved the world's problems. So we're good going forward, just in case you needed to know. We're also good going forward to get into tasting some Lone Pint. I'm so excited about this. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Smoking and Toasting is the podcast and radio program and video extravaganza that is all about craft beer. We're going to get into some of that right now. Fine spirits and hand-rolled cigars, and we will be right back. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Guess what? A Welsh whiskey distillery named Clendaren Irish Whiskey is basically giving Putin the finger. They are refusing to export whiskey, and they've apparently had quite a robust audience for it in Russia, but they're cutting all ties and shipping no more whiskey to Russia.
Clendaren's pretty good whiskey, too.
Yeah. I wasn't familiar with it. Are you familiar with it? Yeah, they're basically just have defined. They say, we're not a political organization, but Russia has crossed the line in invading Ukraine, and we're not going to send them our whiskey anymore. So one wonders if this will be the breaking point where finally Putin backs down. Like he has.
I mean, when you start
we've done
getting
all the economic sanctions, we've done all that.
When you
but
start
now they're
getting into
messing
a
with
man's whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Something has to give. You know?
Ukraine produces something like 40% of the world's barley, and
that's crazy, isn't it?
It's really the breadbasket. So all of the people like us as brewers and distillers, we rely quite a bit on.
So have you seen any supply chain issues because of that? Because of the war?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Certainly have.
Well, our guest today is from Lone Pint Brewery. He is Blake Niederhofer, and Blake has brought some Lone Pint goodies for us to taste, and I am so excited.
I'm for it.
I just love this brewery. I just think they're so innovative and cool, and your beers just have this feeling, and you confirmed it with what you said earlier, that you're making beers that you like. It's not about like trying to fill a market niche or saying, well, the fat is this, let's do one of those. Yeah,
right. I mean, that's always been really important for us is to make what we want to drink and what we love, and what's going to be in our fridge at the house. So, this first one that we're doing, Gentleman's Relish, is one that we've been making since the garage days.
Mm-hmm.
It's really kind of neat now that we have it in cans. We're only doing it on nitro, so it's going to have that great creamy nitrogen
creamy bubbly
head.
taste to it. Yep.
Yeah,
and why was this named Gentleman's Relish?
So it was actually kind of a running joke. One of our investors is British, and his dad used to eat Gentleman's Relish on toast, and it's an anchovy paste, and it's really quite horrible. But we thought it was just a hilarious name. We were like, wouldn't that be a funny beer name? And so it's a Northern English style brown ale, and so because Gentleman's Relish is obviously English, we thought it'd be a fun name to use for that. And I've been told lots of other reasons we named it that from people that don't know.
May or may not be true.
The Gentleman's Relish, the anchovy stuff you're talking about. My dad traveled abroad a lot when he was in the Navy.
And he would bring home Gentleman's Relish?
No, but he picked up some very bizarre tastes. Like one of his favorite snacks was sardines, like straight out of the can.
Oh, wow.
With onions on crackers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was potent.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Like, you knew he was having that.
That's kind of what I think of when I think of Gentleman's Relish.
Not the sardines, but the kippers on toast.
That's good stuff.
Nice.
Ian, you have had the Gentleman's Relish.
Buddy, have I?
Have you had it with the nitro?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
As a matter of fact, the first time I saw it on nitro was at the brewery. My country band was playing out there, and I said, "Oh my goodness, they have it on nitro!" So I'm going to have some of that. And it's absolutely fantastic, and I'm so glad to see it in the can. I do have to bring up though. So for the longest time, you guys bottled everything in those cool little.
Yeah,
those cool little bottles.
They were smaller than bombers, but larger than your regular.
Very unique and interesting. Like you always knew just by the bottle
that it
you were
was
looking
a Lone
at yourself.
Pint. Yeah,
and then when you guys finally moved to cans, I was like, oh, they're going to normalize things. But now you have the weird can holder thing. Like you guys just have to be left of center on that.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Right.
I take it that's maybe more environmentally sound than
right.
pretty
So
cool.
The shift from we started. Our original packaging was 750 milliliter champagne bottles with caps.
Nice.
And bombers are fine, and then we went to the 500 milliliter 4-pack bottles.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love those. And
I like those a lot too.
They're gorgeous bottles.
Good,
and
like
stand
heavy
out.
glass too. Yeah.
Yeah, you could always find them easily on the shelf if people had them.
Right, but unfortunately, most of the retailers that carried them hated them because they don't fit on the shelf.
Right.
And they're incredibly heavy. So the distributors, kind of pushed back a little bit on that too. And then all of that together with shipping and the rising prices in glass and cardboard, it's a very package heavy in that format. And
I've noticed that a lot of breweries have gone that were all glass bottles have gone all can now. It's just economically it makes more sense, right?
And to your point, environmentally, now we're in aluminum cans, and we use they're called E6PR.
Those
six-pack holders.
Six-pack holders, yeah.
They're made of compressed plant fiber. So
and they just break down, right?
Yeah, so you can throw them in your compost pile.
Them,
yeah, that's cool.
You don't even need to recycle them, right? You can just throw them in your yard.
Which is great because as somebody who's always been big on recycling, I've been just absolutely appalled by discovering what they do with most of our recycling,
Which is not recycled.
which is not recycled, or a lot of it was recycled, was basically shipped to China, and then China got pissed at us for something, I don't remember what, and stopped receiving them. So there were just these barges full of recyclable plastic just sitting in like harbors and stuff, and it's just it's very frustrating when you are trying to do the right thing, but you're not able to get it done as well. So if these can actually be composted, that's terrific, because you don't even have to worry about that.
You don't have to question it at all. And and the warehouse that we get those from is actually right in Magnolia. So
that's very cool.
It's a great so super easy shipping and wonderful for the environment, just like the cans. The aluminum is completely recyclable.
I am
Absolutely, yes.
such a fan of beer in cans for that reason.
Yeah.
For like, there's no contamination from light. There's no those things, and I'm a big fan. Like, we have this thing back and forth. He loves beer out of a bottle.
Because I like my beer cold.
Generally
I know
speaking, I'm going to
you're
pour
not
it into a
supposed to, but-
glass.
Yeah, yeah, which I do
And if
too.
I'm really forced to drink it straight out of the can and I want more experience, I'll put a speed hole in it. It's fine. I'm not too proud for that.
And it's nice now. A lot of people that couldn't take it before, they're now taking our cans to the river and the lake and the pool and all those places that you really don't want to have glass. So
And I would, I wanted to know, was Gentleman's Relish your first? Was this the first beer that you brewed and said, okay, we're happy with this? This is us.
No, so actually our flagship beer, what we thought was going to be our flagship beer, was our IPA that we called 667 Neighbor the Beast.
I love that beer.
I think that's the first one I saw from you guys on the shelf too.
And that was an incredible beer and probably one of the favorites among us that make it at the brewery. But Yellow Rose came out and just crushed it.
Now, do you still make 667?
Yeah, we do make it
Periodically?
Periodically. It's not an all the time beer anymore.
I think I've had one
it'll
like in the
definitely be out
last
there.
6 months or something. But I didn't know if maybe it had gone
So
away.
we made another round of it right before we moved to cans. We haven't made it since we've been in cans.
Okay. Well,
Is this
667
somebody
was
that you
great.
know on the?
No, so it was funny. They actually surprised me, and I was on the 500 milliliter Gentleman's Relish label. But no, that is not me or anybody we know on that one.
Okay.
I thought it was made like Paul Revere or something. I didn't know.
This is my go-to beer for you guys, and I love the Lone Pint, the Yellow Rose.
Yep.
But this is my go-to because I love brown ales. I love malty ridiculousness, and this ticks those boxes.
It really does, and I love the creaminess with the nitro too.
Yeah, it really is a good beer, and browns are just kind of a weird thing. The people that love them absolutely love them, and but they're not huge in the market. So you see a lot of breweries, they'll put one out and then withdraw it, and put it out and withdraw it. I think
St. Arnold had their. What's their brown ale called for so long?
It was the with the dog on it, right?
Yeah, so they had
But
Ale
before
Wagger.
Ale Wagger, it was called.
It started as just brown.
Oh, it was just brown ales. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So
And then I think they had a couple of different iterations of it.
But there's just not a lot of companies that make like a straight up brown ale, or even like I'm so glad that Eureka Heights makes Wicked Awesome, not a brown ale but an ESB, and there's not a lot of companies that make that either.
But this one I'm seeing
I love
everywhere.
this.
You guys have got this in even the little Phoenicia store downstairs in my building has got this in stock, which is really awesome.
And interestingly enough, having had it on CO2 and on Nitro. The Nitro, it tastes a little bit sweeter.
It does taste
Like
a little
the
sweet,
CO2 tends to make the sweetness feel a little spicier because of the
It's the
bubbles.
carbonic acid,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That gives it that kind of
Yeah,
hotness.
and that's not a bad thing. It's just is. But this gives it almost a little bit of sweetness that's not there, and you got a great bitter finish on it that's like really, really nice.
I think this is a brown ale that everybody, even if brown ale is not your thing, this is one you should try because it's very drinkable. It's not, it's not a weird, unapproachable beer.
Sure.
To put it that way,
And for you hopheads, there is a hop presence.
Oh,
in it,
yes.
especially
I'm
on the
loving it.
last,
I'm
the
digging
last
it.
third of the.
I'm digging it because I'm the
finish on
IPA
it.
guy, so I'm always looking for the hop flavor, and it's there.
And so we use English hops and English malt in it, so it is very much an English beer. We joke the only thing American in is the water. But we do it better here.
You don't want to ship in Thames water.
Yeah, no, you definitely don't. I'll take even Mississippi over that. All right, let's try something else. This is darn
So good.
darn good. Yeah.
All right. So the next one is here we go. The next one is a saison, and so this is another one of those styles, right, that you don't see a lot of.
No, you're right. Although it's, I think, becoming a little more prevalent.
Yeah, saisons are kind of I would almost say like a specialty thing, not because
now
I
that
think that it's difficult to make. It's not that much more difficult than anything else.
These days,
but I just don't think it's as popular.
Well, these days you can buy saisons and farm ales in HEB.
It's
right
got
in the grocery store.
It's got the funk,
oh,
like right on the nose.
we
I love
want
it.
the funk.
There's a funk in the farmhouse of saison ales that absolutely that
Gotta have that thing.
Yeah, from the you get that from some of the oats and the wheat in there, and it's got that kind of a spiciness.
Funk in the farmhouse, is that a Rolling Stones lyric?
I don't.
If it's not, it should be. Right?
No, I think that's Fever in the Funk House is what that was. Okay. Anyway, yes, that's.
I don't think I've tried this one before. Can I see the label on that?
Yeah, so this is I just crowlered this one today from
Is this
the brewery. So we did
I
release
see.
this one in cans and in kegs, and so there may still be some out there, but this is one of the ones that was just kind of a different style than what we do all the time.
So how often do you do like a I don't want to call it a temporary beer, but something that is going to be just a seasonal or a short time release?
Right. So we have the Zythophile series, which is kind of the single hopped IPAs that we do.
Yeah.
We do one of those per quarter. So the last one we did was Citra, and we did Centennial before that.
The Citra is great, by the way.
Thank you. And so that's just one of those ways for us to try new hops, and it's fun for the public too because they get to try it at the same time.
Something a little different, yeah.
And then the ones that are really popular we'll pull out and do again. Like El Dorado, we've done a couple of times. That one was a very popular one. And then we usually do once a quarter or so a special release of some sort.
You did when I was up there playing it last time when we did that interview. You had some chili beers,
right? So I have
that were finished in different barrels.
Right, and I have one of those. I have one of those here today. So you're skipping ahead a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
We have a bourbon.
Good.
We have a bourbon barrel aged one of those, which we'll have.
I drank a lot of that.
And I guess my sort of skipping ahead question would be, are we going to be partaking in anything that resembles Tornado Shark?
Not today.
Not today. Okay.
Not today.
So if we're not, then I have to ask you about Tornado Shark.
Yes, please.
First of all, it's a very interesting and a beer that I really enjoyed. It's not one that I would drink all the time, but it's one I really enjoyed. But where did Tornado Shark come from?
So,
we've all seen Sharknado, or
at least heard of. I've never actually seen.
I've never watched one. Yeah,
so
we
we did in fact have that name before the movie. This was another beer that we were brewing in the in the garage, and this is a family business. So my wife and her brother are my partners, and his wife, and we were kind of having a conversation, and my wife has 4 like really big fears. One's tornadoes, one's sharks, and then
so this is 2 of the 4.
Yeah, and then like cockroaches and airplanes, right?
I was going to say now we have a beer called Tornado Shark Spider Snake.
Yeah, no,
right?
So, yeah, right. Nobody wants to have a cockroach beer, so
You're right.
Heather and my wife was kind of like talking about like how she has this kind of irrational fear of these things, and her brother was like, "Oh my gosh, can you imagine like this just tornado full of sharks?" And so we kind of had a laugh about it, and we just named this beer that. And
there was a movie.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, we saw the movie poster. We were like, I can't believe it! Like there it is. We were like, somebody did it, and it was amazing. Yeah.
Well, I thought sure that
all like 7 of those were just cinematic masterpieces.
Oh, weren't they though?
Yeah.
I thought sure though that the beer had been inspired by the kitschiness of.
It was actually
the Sharknado
I guess
movies.
the other way around.
Wow, that's really, really great. All right, listen, we're going to take a break. We got more tasting to do, and we got a whole lot more to talk about, including I really want to get your take on what's happening at the what's happening with the brewery. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. The people that make Fat Tire. New Belgium. Thank you. Yeah, I want to get your take on what's happening over there and see what you think. So we'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back into Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And yay, I wasn't the guy that spilled today. I told you before the show, I usually spill at least once.
I'm glad that I could lead the charge.
Yeah, and you took care of us today, so that's
You drew first blood.
That's perfect. So while exploring Lone
what I
Pint
get
Yellow
for sure.
Roast, which we have talked about a lot on this show before, and I will just say this about it: this is my standard for IPAs now.
It's pretty amazing.
And the reason I say standard is because it was my absolute favorite for a long time. And then I noticed that something would come out, another brewery would make something or a hazy or whatever. And I would go, oh, this is so good. This is now my favorite IPA. And then what happens, though, is that after time, I kind of go back to Yellow Rose being my favorite. So it's kind of like my standard. As my favorites have changed, they always go back to Yellow Rose in between, which is I think says about as much as you can say about how good this beer is.
Well, that's probably one of the nicest compliments I've gotten.
I was
so thank you. I think that's great.
I was playing with my band at Pacific Yard House in Conroe, which is a very cool venue if you've never been there.
It is a cool spot.
Yeah, it's a very cool venue. And I went up and I was trying to decide what to drink, and they had Yellow Rose, so I ordered one. And the lady goes, "Do you want the big glass or this regular glass?" And I was like, "Come on, lady, look at me."
What do you
And she
think?
gives me this 24-ounce Yellow Rose.
Yeah.
Let's just say
Yeah.
the set got interesting
Yeah.
after about 3 of those.
Now I will tell you, I always go for the smaller one, but there's a reason, and that's that I like my beer cold, and I want to drink it while it's still cold.
Yellow Rose.
and I want to have another one.
Yellow
after.
Rose tastes fine all the way up until it's room temperature. It's fine.
I get it.
And that right
I don't
there-
disagree with that. I just enjoy drinking cold beer.
That right there is a testament to how good this IPA is. It doesn't get any more bitter.
You're right
it
about
doesn't
that.
get any.
There are a lot of IPAs that when they start moving towards room temperature are really
the truth
not
is,
as good.
cold masks a lot of flavors, and especially bitter flavors. And so, like, I think honestly, if you have an IPA like this that can be room temperature and still taste fantastic, then you are doing something amazing.
Well, I'll tell you about this beer. I lived in Texas in the 90s and became interested in craft beer, but knew very little about it back then. But I did know this one thing, and that was that I liked Shiner Bock a hell of a lot more than I liked a Bud Light or a Miller Lite, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So Shiner was kind of like my go-to, and I enjoyed some St. Arnold beers and some other things. But then I moved to Boston in the late 90s. And when I got to Boston, I got introduced, because the radio station I was working at, we did a lot of business with a brewery out of Boston called Harpoon. And I began to sample their different beers and chanced across the Harpoon IPA. And I just absolutely fell in love with that. That was my favorite beer until this.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And I've had, obviously plenty of things that I've gravitated to for a limited time. But like I said, I always come back to this because it's just so. You didn't know that, though, when you made it. Like, you didn't know that this was going to be your flagship beer, did you?
No, we really didn't. It was supposed to be a one-off.
Wow.
Why is there this beautiful kiss of sweetness that hits right before you swallow? Like, there's this, like,
It is wonderful.
this great
And it's what keeps
fruity
Right.
IPA thing, and then bam, right before you swallow, there's this kiss of sweetness.
and
that's
it's
just-
what keeps it from being sort of like hop harsh on
Right.
on
yeah,
finish.
it's not pine cone
Right.
bitter. Like, there's a
Right.
little bit of that that pine bitterness, but like in a pleasant way. But it's not like pine cone crushing you kind of bitter.
Yeah, so the hop we use in it is called Mosaic, and it turned into kind of a magical hop, and we kind of nerd out on a lot of the chemistry side.
So
but,
is this only Mosaic in this? There's
it's
no
only
Citra
Mosaic.
in this.
So the smash on the label is short for single malt and single hops. So,
Okay.
the only malt we use in it is a Pilsner malt, and then it's all Mosaic. So
That's so cool.
the two big things that most of the brewers don't talk about is water chemistry and yeast, and I think that's one of the things that really sets us apart. You see a lot of Mosaic beers, and it became wildly popular, and you can make a lot of really great beers, but I think the thing that kind of sets us apart is how we do our water chemistry, how we use our hops and the yeast we use.
Well, there's a lot of IPAs out there, and there's
Right.
a lot of IPAs that are using Mosaic. So you guys are definitely like a head and shoulders above those. And I don't say that to everybody. This is just that good of a beer.
Yeah, and Mosaic can do weird stuff. One of the big flavor descriptors, which is going to sound horrible for someone that's talking about drinking this, but right, but it is like a real uric, like cat urine sort of flavor. And you get that
in wine too. That's actually a real deal in wine.
And you get that in some of the Mosaics. That real harshness, and you can round some of that out with. The right yeast and the right water chemistry. But if you just kind of throw everything at it, it can be a very, very tricky hop to work with. But I think
Yes, I've had some Mosaic IPAs that I did not like at all.
Right.
And they
That's
had that
kinda what I'm
quality
talking
to
about.
them. Yeah, absolutely. I have to ask about the girl on the can.
Sure.
The Yellow Rose, which I assume the Yellow Rose is a reference to Yellow Rose of Texas.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is not a blonde,
Right.
she's
Nor was the Yellow Rose of Texas.
Okay, so tell me.
So if you're not familiar with the legend of the Yellow Rose of Texas, she's a heroine that she actually worked down the street at Morgan's Point. She was either, depending on the stories, a freed slave or an indentured servant that was working for one of the Texas Army colonels at Morgan's Point, and she was working a ferry crossing. Well, when Santa Anna came through with his troops from Mexico, apparently went through that ferry crossing, thought she was wildly beautiful, and took her to his camp at San Jacinto. And legend has it she was feeding information back to the Texas Army about what was going on and troop establishments and that sort of thing. And when the Texas Army raided the Mexican Army at the Battle of San Jacinto, the final part of the legend is they literally cut Santa Anna with his pants down. So she was very instrumental and very much a hero in our heroine in our Texas independence.
Our Texas independence in the story.
And then
and do we know what she looked like? Is this a representation of her?
She either goes by Emily West or Emily Morgan, depending on what you read. There are some conflicting stories about who exactly she was, but no, I've not seen any pictures that show exactly her. But this is just kind of our nod to her as a Texas hero.
It's a great story
So,
and it's a great illustration.
to follow up the Battle of San Jacinto in true Texas style, after the Battle of San Jacinto, the lady that owned the farm came out and was wondering she was like talking to the army, going, "What am I supposed to do? How am I going to plant crops with all these bodies?"
Right. And then
I'm going to need a sharper plow.
and then the cow kicked over the lantern and the whole city burned down.
Oh, that was Chicago.
I'm sorry, I got my history confused. All right, this is a good point to take a break then, and we will be back when we return. It's tequila time, my friends. We're going to be trying some brand new tequila that will, I think, be an interesting thing to go to after the Yellow Rose. Plus, there's more from Lone Pint coming up, and of course, drinking news right around the corner.
Love it.
It's Smoking and Toasting.
This is killer guitar tone coming up.
You think so? I think it's a little flat, don't you? Welcome back into Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled
You have to give me a
cigars.
hard time because that's one of my old bands.
Yeah. That's why I think the guitar player's a little flat, but
Yeah, it sounded off.
yeah. So like here's the thing. You were telling us during the break about Yellow Rose when it took off and how you knew it was going to become like your flagship beer. It's a great story, and it is still. I'm assuming. Is it far and away your best seller? Is anything even close?
No, I mean it very much is our bestseller. I would say it's probably between 60 and 70% of our production.
This is a rare IPA. Like
It
this
is.
thing is so well balanced.
It's
and
just
so good.
superbly balanced. And I was going to ask you. You mentioned that you started thinking of this as a limited run. Have there been other? Obviously, it caught on and became your flagship. But have there been other beers that you've made that you really, really loved, but that they didn't survive? That they didn't survive past their limited run?
Man, I'll tell you, it's kind of everybody's heartbreak about 667. I mean, that was an IPA. It's more of a West Coast style IPA,
But it's so good, though.
yeah, and if you haven't had it and you're wondering kind of what 667 tasted like, it was not far off from Bell's Two Hearted Ale.
Yes, which is a wonderful beer.
Which is a
Yes.
wonderful beer. And, my wife and her brother both went to Penn State. And so that was their kind of, you can get this at the grocery store beer. And,
Right.
And so, when we would go back to visit, that would be something that, is very coveted that we would bring back with us.
Sure.
And now it's available here, and that's great. But that's very similar to what 667 was, and we
No wonder
loved
I
it.
liked it.
I have a sister, by the way. I have a sister that teaches at Penn State in
That's right.
Greensburg. Yeah.
So they were in State College
Yeah.
at Penn State, but yeah,
Love it.
yeah. So that was one that now that we're not making it as much, I miss it a lot, but
But it will
it's-
still come back occasionally, right?
yeah, absolutely.
That's
And-
awesome.
and-
So it's one of those things that when you see it, grab it, because you know it's going to be there
I
for a
like
limited time.
I like that one, but that I gotta tell you this one right here, like on a list of the best IPAs I know of. That's Yellow Rose right here in front of me. Two Hearted, 90-minute. 120-minute kind of doesn't count because it's so ridiculous.
Right, it's not
but
really
I also
an IPA.
love
that's
that
like
one.
syrup. You can pour that over
Yeah.
pancakes.
It's so good though.
But look at the rarefied air you're sharing there. I mean, Bell's Two Hearted Ale has been acclaimed on list after list as one of the best IPAs like every year. And then you're talking about 90-minute from Dogwood.
Yeah.
Are
Any of you
kidding?
out there-
and this is your like regular old
Anybody out
Yellow
there
Rose.
driving through Texas, if you're ever in the Texas area, pick up some of this. If you're an IPA fan, this will change you a little bit.
Yeah. I got to say, it's absolutely fantastic.
So
Ian's going to pour some
I
tequila
have
here.
this Corzo.
Corzo
This
Tequila
bottle
Anejo. Yes.
is like phenomenal. Look at this
It-
bottle.
It's a really interesting bottle, and you see
It's
that that's almost like
incredibly
a pour spout that you have there. That's kind of like, have you ever seen
No,
one
I
of those
see that-
faucets
I
in a
see-
bathroom?
I thought
Yeah.
it was like
that-
you could put it through your belt through it.
Well, you can
carry
do
it
that
like a
too, I'm
flask.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and also I
Doesn't
just
look like
I
a
just
bottle.
want to
Great-
point
it's a great
out
idea.
I just want to point out that Cruze, being the ever vigilant person that he is, has deigned to clear the plastic from the top of the bottle, so
Right.
there's no chance of me getting
No
a
chance
plastic
if you get a
cut
plastic
by opening
cut.
this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then less spillage by clearing the neck,
Well,
so to speak.
you know,
Like
it's-
he's all about these OSHA
that's absolutely right. Workplace safety is what I.
things, you know. I mean, I grew up in the '80s. That's before safety was invented. So
Yeah,
this
that's-
is all new to me.
Yeah, no.
You know.
Ian, all I'm doing is protecting you, my friend. That's it. That's my sole motivation.
Look at how that pours.
Yeah, isn't that
That's
great?
so cool.
It's one of those fancy sinks in a bar or
Yeah.
something.
Yes, exactly.
So
Never
while he's
have that in my
pouring
house.
that, let me ask you, Ian. I know your answer to
Oh,
this.
that's probably too much.
I'm not sure it is.
God hates
so,
the
So here, pass that down to Cruze. It'll be fine.
So, Ian, I know I know what your answer will be to this. So, let me ask you, if Fat Tire, New Belgium Fat Tire,
Yep.
yes,
Fat Tire
you
is
a
one
fan?
of the most brilliant beers.
Yep.
When you can get it fresh on tap,
yep.
it is unbelievably good.
Ian,
and
So
I'm
it was
sad. that-
definitely in my early get me into craft beers.
Yes,
Exactly.
100%.
Yes, exactly. And I think the same way about Shiner
So,
Bock.
so
It's like-
let's talk about like things that I drink when I'm on a gig, because there's certain places you go where you have to know what they have good on tap. Mm-hmm. So anytime I played at the Shakespeare's pub or any of their places like that, they always had fresh Fat Tire, and that's what I would drink there. Now, most places as a default, I would go to Shiner if they didn't have a lot of choices. But when you go to a place that has a few things, like you start figuring out pretty quickly over the course of playing there a few times what is good on tap. And that was one that anytime I played at those, their fish and chips were awesome, and the Fat Tire was always like super fresh. And
I always associate Fat Tire with Vegas because every time I'm in Vegas, it seems like Fat Tire you can get from
It's
the
pretty
waitresses
ubiquitous,
when
yeah.
you're playing, in the machines or whatever.
It's also your
playing
airport
blackjack.
beer, right?
Yeah,
Right.
good airport beer.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, if you're a fan of Fat Tire, when the show's over, you need to head for your grocery store or your favorite place to buy beer, Specs or wherever.
Are you about to break my
and
heart?
grab some. Yeah, it's worse than if it's being discontinued. They're changing it.
So
So the story goes that Fat Tire is what put New Belgium Brewery on the map. It was their flagship beer for a long time, but sales have been declining on it over the past
then they
5
got
to 7
bought
years.
out. They got bought out 2 years ago, right?
Actually, I don't
New
remember.
Belgium.
that.
I thought somebody
that.
bought them 2 years ago.
Do you know on that?
Am I making that up?
I think New Belgium is employee owned. I think they gave it to
That's
their
what I
employees.
thought. It was
I think they
employee
sold it
owned.
to their
Okay,
employees.
maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So over the past, say, 7 to 10 years, Fat Tire has been slowly declining in sales and has now been surpassed by their Voodoo Ranger series of IPAs,
Which is
are
nice.
which are good. They're very popular. So they apparently have decided that they're changing Fat Tire into a wheat beer instead of an amber like it is now. They're changing it into a wheat
I have
beer.
no words for
They're
this.
going to do a recipe tweak. They're going to redesign the packaging, and it's been essentially it's
gonna
essentially
become-
been replaced.
It's going to
not
become Flat Tire.
yeah, an entirely new beer in a new style, and they're doing it with no warning or official rationale, which they're saying in this article that I'm looking at is the oddest thing about this development, that the company's been completely mum about the whole
I
thing.
swear that they were bought by somebody like a year or two ago.
But cans of this newly redesigned Fat Tire have reportedly been hitting shelves in markets such as Colorado and Michigan, and the company's social media account has not commented on any of this, and fans have been posting photos
So
of
it's
the
already
new
out.
cans online in some areas. So so let me ask you this, and I realize you guys are a smaller brewery than New Belgium,
Sure.
but let's say that over the years, you guys come up with something new, and Yellow Rose, your flagship, your beer that really put you on the map, is first it's no longer your bestseller, then maybe sales decline on it across the years. Is there a thing that you can do besides reformulate? I mean, how would you deal with that? Because you got to run a business too. I get that, right?
Right. And, I think with something as iconic as Fat Tire, it's such a question mark, because they've put so much money into the name and the marketing.
Right.
And
I mean,
the
good-
bicycles. I mean, just think about all the
Yeah.
bicycles you've seen in the
Those,
grocery
dude, a
stores.
buddy of mine had one of those. And he used to ride it around all the time. He got it in a like a, what do you call it?
Yeah.
A lottery.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a raffle or something.
And good God, what's Harry Bosch going to drink?
yeah, well,
Because Harry
I-
Bosch drinks Fat Tire in the novels and in the TV series.
it sounds like at some point they were just kind of hoping that they.
So they did sell, by the way.
They did. Okay.
Okay.
They sold to international conglomerate. What was the name of that, Kieran?
Oh, they
Kieran.
sold the. You're right.
Yeah,
We
I
did
remember
report
that happening.
We did.
And I
so-
remember
so
we were
Kieran bought
talking
them.
about that being kind of the beginning of the.
But
end,
that's
so to
different
speak.
than Karen Ichiban because Karen Ichiban is owned by Anheuser-Busch.
Right.
So it's a different Kieran. It's not the Kieran that you're
guess-
getting at the sushi shop.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, here's what I'm trying to figure out though. At what point does something in your lineup become so iconic that you can't get rid of it?
Also,
even if
they
it
bought.
doesn't
That's the
sell
same
as
company
well?
that bought Bell's, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, I knew that they've been sold, so I figured there's going to be changes happening. So this is.
Yeah. So that may be what's driving this. For us, we again, this is one of those things that I get told by people in the market that we changed the Yellow Rose recipe, which we have not.
No,
I'll go
it's the
ahead-
same. Trust me.
I'll go ahead
It's
and
the
throw
same.
that out there.
I've
have
had
not.
enough of it that I can tell you it's the same.
But so man, it's tough because if it's not selling, it's not selling, and
yeah.
when you're a large corporation like that, I guess you have to make those sorts of decisions. I would probably be more of a fan of retiring the beer. I mean, man, Fat Tire is one of those. It's like Sierra
They
Nevada's
just come
Pale
up with a
Ale
new
or-
beer and change the name.
or somebody else,
Yeah,
you
right.
know.
Come up with a new beer. And
Yeah,
what I've always loved about Fat Tire, to be honest with you, is it is one of the beers that pairs best with cigars. That's not a stout or a porter,
Sure.
right? Because a lot of times IPAs and the other beers that I really like to drink can fight with the cigar a little bit. This Fat Tire always, there's a chocolate note in it that works really, really well with the cigar.
Speaking of beers that pair well with cigars, let's talk about making a barley wine.
So we have made a barley wine. It was our.
I don't think I got to taste that.
It was our anniversary beer. It was our 9th anniversary beer. We made a barley wine that turned out pretty good. But yeah, barley wines are great. And Tornado Shark that we were talking about earlier, it's an American strong ale, which when people ask me to describe that, I kind of tell them it's too big to be an amber, too small to be a barley wine, but it's kind of in that space right in between.
And a little hoppy.
And a little bit hoppy. I think that, good malty beers like Fat Tire and like Tornado Shark and even Relish to a certain extent, they just struggle to find popularity because everybody is, really.
I promise I'll buy and drink all I can.
Yeah.
And he means it too.
I may have a bottle or two stashed away, so I'll see what I can find next time.
That's good.
Next time you come play out at the brewery, I'll see if I can get a bottle of that barley wine. But and then we did a large scale release of barley wine that was not barrel aged. That we called the Wanderer, that turned out really well too.
I never saw that.
So, guys, it's time to sip your tequila. And the reason is not just because I want to know what you think of it for the show, but it's also because...
You mean it's time to keep sipping my tequila?
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. But it's also because I want to ask the big question. So let's have some tequila
Drum roll,
and talk
please.
about it first, and then we'll do the big question. No. Tell me about the tequila first. This is Corzo, Anejo tequila.
All right, if you like things like pepper and vanilla, then you're going to like this.
It's got, yes, pepper and vanilla are definitely the two big ones, I would say.
Yeah, and almost no burn. It's just super duper smooth. I mean, you can tell that the age from the from the barrels is really mellowed it.
Did I mention to you, by the way, speaking of mellow tequilas, that I got a bottle of Skelly? I've been.
You went ahead and bought it?
No, I didn't. I got
you got
given
it
as
for
a
Christmas.
gift. I got it for Christmas, and I hadn't bought one since they'd gotten so expensive. I was just thinking, yeah, you know what? For another $50, I can get a Reserva de la Familia, and so I hadn't had Skelly in a little while. When I got gifted this bottle at Christmas, I opened it. Oh my God, it's so good! It's totally worth the price. It's totally worth it.
Even double the price
double
that
what it
we
used to be.
Originally bought it for.
You can still get it for under $100. It's going to be between $80 and $90 a bottle.
Still.
It's totally worth
It's
it.
that kind of good.
It's that kind of good.
Well, we said it when we first tasted it that this
Yeah.
would easily be.
It's one of the smoothest, easiast to drink. It's so dangerous.
This is an outstanding tequila, by the way.
I think so.
It's
I
delicious.
really like this.
I like it a lot.
It's the agave note is really nice with sweetness. The pepper
I'm getting just a little bit of that
is forward. The
molasses with the vanilla.
the vanilla
but still
is big,
agave and pepper.
But I
are big.
also love. There's a little kiss of oak bitterness on the finish that really rounds the whole thing out.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and you can't miss this bottle on the shelf. By the way, 'cause it's the only one.
No,
shaped
it's
like
fantastic looking
Yeah,
bottle.
yeah, it really is kind of looks like a bottle they would use. Like, have you ever noticed, like, on episodes of Star Trek, even like the old original series, they always use these crazy, fantastic
weird-
bottles
yeah,
whenever
they're
they're having
weird
like
bottles.
wine or spirits or something. It's always interesting. Let me ask you, speaking of Star Trek, by the way, I just have to throw this in. I'm such a geek. My wife for Christmas got me tickets to this, and we went to it this weekend. It was at the Smart Financial Center in Sugarland, and
That's
it
a
was
great room,
It's
by
a
the way.
wonderful room. It was a showing of the movie Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, followed by a Q&A with William Shatner. I was in geek boy heaven. I just have to tell you.
So
my
we
wife
went to-
totally knows what to do.
We went to one of those with it was the Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and the Q&A was with
John Cleese.
John Cleese, and it was
love him.
so good.
I love
And
him.
it was
He's
so fun.
Oh yeah, he's one of the funniest.
And
men
watching
alive.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail in a room full of people who are there
Yeah.
to see Monty Python and
Yeah,
Holy
yeah,
Grail, is
and they're laughing.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. But anyway, so now that we're drinking tequila, let me get to the question. You guys have built a wonderfully successful, small, but wonderfully successful craft brewery. your respect level is off the charts. This is how I see.
Thank you.
How people see you guys. You can tell me
Like
if you
total street cred.
if you see it different. But yeah, you guys have got told kind of the way that a Bell's, for example, has this. They're just a brewery that has credibility. They're not looked at as somebody that chases fads. They're just looked at as somebody that makes great beer and does it consistently. And I think you guys in our area of the country have nailed this, right?
Yes, that was a very easy question. Thank
Okay,
you. I'll
good.
be having a good
That's our
afternoon.
show.
All
Thank
right,
you so
goodbye.
much. No, so let's say that in the next round of acquisitions, that Big Beer, they've now picked up the Carbox and the Wicked Weeds and the Goose Islands and not dissing any of those breweries at all. Those are good breweries. But now let's say they're really looking for what still eludes them, and that is credibility among the craft community, right? Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, and again, I'm not doing this to diss Carbach, but they're a fairly...
You know what would give AB InBev credibility?
What's that?
If they made decent beer.
Well, of course. But they have...
They're a chemical company. They're like Dow.
Yeah.
But they have...
They're like those 80s commercials about companies that don't actually, you can't tell what the hell they do.
Right. But think about this, though. They
It was
have
a BASF.
acquired...
We don't make the things that you enjoy. We make them better.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
But think about it, though. AB and others have acquired breweries that do make good beer. What they haven't been able to buy, in my opinion, is credibility.
They can't. And I know this is a question for him, but they can't buy credibility like that. Because the reason they're buying that beer is to make up for the 2 to 5% market share that they've lost because they can't stand the fact that someone else is buying beer that's not theirs.
And now they can cram
What
Carbach
was
down the
it
throat
called in that
of
book? That
every
100%
retailer.
state of mind?
Yeah, right.
That Budweiser had instated back.
Right.
Yeah, like
so a really great book. I'm sure you've read it.
Bourbon
Barrel Stout and Selling Out.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Get the book.
So this should be the next book you read. It is the story of Goose Island, which was the first
I'm very
brewery
familiar
to
with
sell
Goose
to
I mean, after you
Anheuser-Busch.
get done with the next expeditionary force, of course.
Yeah.
But
So here's my question. Let's say AB or one of them. It doesn't have to be them. Looking for credibility comes to Lone Pint and makes you an offer that you can't refuse.
Sure.
You got to take that, right?
Look, man. I'll tell you this. When we started Lone Pint 10 years ago, our whole thing, and we started right around the time the Carbach guys did, and I know Eric Warner and a lot of those Carbach guys, and I was in running clubs with a lot of their sales folks and operations guys, and I still love all those folks. They're still good people, and and
they still make some good beers.
Yeah, and so there's nothing that's going to change that. The hard part about that question is, when we started, me and my wife have a daughter, Samantha, and my brother-in-law and his wife have 3 boys, and we've always thought this is going to be a legacy company. We're going to be like the Yinglings,
something you hand down to your kids.
Yeah, we want to continue to
kids.
grow this, and it was going to be a legacy company going forward. That being said, I don't know if it's them rebelling or what, but nobody really seems that interested in the family. So,
isn't that the way it always is?
Right.
If you'd done something else, they'd be like, "Dad, we want to brew our own beer."
Right. Yeah. So, they're probably going to start a church or something. Who knows? But at the end of the day, somebody says something with a B in it. Yeah. You can't not listen. Right?
Yeah. I hear you.
that'll get your attention.
Yeah.
for sure.
Sure.
But
and I'm a big believer in capitalism. Like this is part of what you do.
Yeah.
It's part of the American success story, right?
But what I'll tell you is that conversation's never been had, and it's not something that we're when Carbach started, anybody that knew them would tell you that the guys that started it were distributors. They built it to sell it.
Right,
and that was their business plan from day one.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And I've never faulted them because they didn't really put that on the billboards, but that was kind of their deal. And they've still taken good care of the employees. A lot of their employees have stayed, and so
we've actually had them on the show before.
Sure.
Yeah. And so this is not a dig against them, but that's just kind of how they did it, and
that was their plan,
right? And that's not our plan, and that's not where we want to go. But come around talking about $1 billion, we'll talk about it.
Sure. No, I understand.
So the next question is this: size-wise, how big do you want to get? Like, is it still growing right now? Is it still like expanding?
Yeah, so we're absolutely growing. During COVID, we expanded into the Valley, and we're now in all the major Texas markets. This year, we're looking at going into New Mexico, Louisiana, and possibly Old Mexico.
Are you guys getting to capacity yet?
Yeah, so we've been working for the last couple of years trying to find property. We're actively looking to expand. We're looking for probably 10 to 15 acres to have a big beer garden and live music venue and
you
to
guys
do like a really nice, because right now our spot's great.
Your spot is cool.
Well, it is until
in
it's
a lot
hot.
of ways, yeah.
When it's hot, it's not a great
It's hot.
spot,
Well, it's welcome to Texas.
but yeah, we like to have an indoor-outdoor space.
It's like
We'd like to have a lot
the
more.
first time I played out there, we had to put up a pop-up just to put over our sound equipment.
Yeah, dude, I went to see.
So the sun wasn't destroying the
I went to see.
soundboard.
Sure.
I think you were there. I went to see a band called Mr. Plow play at Brash.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So hot.
The band was great. The beer was fantastic. I almost fainted. It was so
You
hot.
do not have a hotter.
It was
You do not
so
have a
hot.
hotter place than Brash.
No,
because that's all concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and even in the brewery, we have roll-up doors on both sides so that air can kind
You
of
can
move
have
through.
airflow. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good
Brash is
thing.
tough, man.
Yeah,
I love those guys. I'm so glad Vince is back. But
They
Yeah,
make,
Vince
they
is
make
so good.
great beers. I love them. But yeah, that's a hot place. That's a hot place, especially in the summer. Okay, so I just want to, before we move completely away from it, say that this tequila is something that gets better and better. Like the fifth sip is better than the second one, and so on.
Really good.
It's
super
very
dangerous.
tasty. Yeah, it's super dangerous
It's-
because it goes down so easily.
It's got this beautiful sweetness too. Like I know people can kind of get turned off by sweet, but this has got this beautiful sweetness that just leaves you going, I kind of want another sip.
Corzo. Yeah, we call that the Doritos effect. That's
Yeah.
what it is. All right. How many more beers are we tasting? Two more. Okay, so let's do that in the next segment. We're going to take a break. We will return with a little drinking news and more to taste from Lone Pine.
More to taste.
Smoking and toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting, our program. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we're
all those things.
enjoying all of those things. Well, we're not smoking right now, but we are definitely enjoying the craft beer and the fine spirits because that tequila Corzo is pretty good. Pretty
Yeah,
darn
it's
good.
real good. What did you say the price point was?
It's
on
about
that?
$40.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
all right, all you guys out there, this tequila is way too expensive. Don't ever buy it.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I don't want
At
it to
least-
become popular. But
At
this
least
Corzo
not for the next several hours, so we can go grab one.
at $40, man.
Yeah. Ian, speaking of things that are expensive, which this tequila is not for an Anejo that's that good, but when cigar companies release limited editions for the Chinese zodiac, they typically focus on the animal that represents the current year of the Chinese zodiac, right? The current lunar year. EP Carrillo has decided to take this 11 steps further, and they've created a set that includes the complete collection of animals. From 2023's Year of the Rabbit to last year's Tiger, there's a cigar in this luxurious box set for everyone's zodiac sign. The set is called the Aura EP Carrillo Sheng Chao Limited Edition, and the tobaccos are purportedly aged a minimum of 5 years. You can save each cigar for its appropriate year, or you can smoke them irrespective of the zodiac calendar. Either way, this fancy humidor will not come cheap.
It comes in a humidor.
Well, a box that doubles as a humidor, essentially.
You got to love that.
it's $1,000.
Oh, that's it?
That works out to $83.33 a cigar.
Oh, shit.
So that's that's further than, you were saying, what did they put out something out that was $20?
That made me say a bad
Yeah,
word.
I know. But you're going to have to stop that, by the way. We're going to be syndicated.
I love that idea.
Yeah, so
I need to cuss up while I can, right?
And by the way, before the syndication starts, we need to give Chris Hart one more chance to come on the show and just drop the F-bomb 5,000 times like he does. He doesn't do it on his own show. He comes on our show and it's F-bomb this,
I
F-bomb
know.
that. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, speaking of things that are crazy, it's time for the segment of the program that people seem to love and no one really knows why. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. All right, I'd like to begin this week's drinking news by mentioning a personal peeve of mine. Since it has to do with pets, it's most definitely a pet peeve in more ways than one, and my dad would have enjoyed that horrible pun. I'm an animal lover. I've had cats and dogs and chickens and even a ferret once.
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you said that because I'm going to post a picture
Yeah.
of my brand new puppy.
Yeah.
Her name is Abby.
I have seen your puppy.
I'm gonna post a picture of it
My wife
right
showed me a
here.
picture on Facebook, and it's awesome.
She's
She
the cutest fat belly puppy
She
ever.
looks like the greatest thing ever. Now, I have had a ferret, actually. And by the way, I would not recommend having a ferret. Turns out that it wasn't until I had purchased this animal and agreed to share my home with Mr. Wheeze, that's what I named him, that I came to the realization that ferrets are not particularly good at finding the litter box, contrary to what I had been told.
And that is why you named it Mr. Wheeze.
And not only that, they also poop their weight every 3 to 4 hours. I'm exaggerating, but not by much.
Not by much.
Trust me. There's nothing quite like opening your underwear drawer to find that Mr. Wheeze has left you a little gift on top of your boxers. And actually, let me correct that. It's not really a little gift at all. It's surprisingly large given the size of the animal.
Yeah, they're surprisingly like dexterous too, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are. Despite these issues, though, I did love Mr. Wheeze, and I eventually found him a great home with a crazy ferret lady named Velma Scoggins who had dozens of them. But that's not really important right now. What I want to address is true, by the way, but it's not important right now. What I want to address today...
I love that we get to see a little bit into your mind here.
Yeah, I admit it's not pretty. What I want to address today, though, is the annoying habit that many cruel people have of dressing their pets up in little human outfits. You know, like those beagles that are forced to wear like a reindeer nose and fake antlers at Christmas time.
Okay, hold on, slow down. So I was at Ernie's one night. Ernie's was a cool little bar over in Montrose. Mm-hmm. I was at Ernie's one night, and there was a bassalope there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a basset hound with the antelope ears, and it was
At least there's a
amazing.
reason for that. I'm talking about people who, want to put little hats and coats on their cats and stuff
It's
like that.
so cute.
It's undeniably clear that the animals don't like this. And in fact, if it's cats we're talking about, there's no doubt in my mind that they are quietly planning their revenge on you for humiliating them in this way. And you, my friend, will pay. You won't see it coming, and you will pay. Your cat has vowed this towards you. But even worse than dressing animals up in stuff they should never be wearing would be altering their appearance in more substantial ways just so you can go viral on social media. That's what happened when a Florida man used hair dye on an unwitting little Pomeranian to turn its fur yellow and red to make it look like the Pikachu character from Pokemon. And if you're watching video of the show, you'll see it right here. And I'm not sure I've ever felt worse for an animal in my life. Sarah McLachlan should actually insert this photo into that commercial she does for helping abused pets. You know, the one that has, you know, it can make all the no wait. The one that could make the most hardened among us cry while she sings about the arms of the angel. I'll bet donations would skyrocket with this photo of little Pikachu puppy in there, and that would be good because it's a very good
I
cause.
jumped the gun.
Our Florida man, it's a little confusing. Our Florida man, who is the owner of world-famous puppies in the Miami area, was apparently looking to drum up publicity for his pet store when he took the Pikachu pup to a Miami Heat game, where the yellow and red dog could be seen by the TV cameras just behind the bench where the basketball players sit when they're not on the court. World-famous puppies actually has had a lot of publicity, but not exactly the kind that they want. Since it was opened less than 2 years ago, they've received 16 citations from authorities, most of which were from customer complaints that the store had sold them sick dogs. World famous indeed. Florida law in Doral County apparently states that it's unlawful for any person to possess, sell, or otherwise transfer within the county any dyed or artificially colored rabbit or other animal. The owner tried claiming that the Pomeranian was not actually for sale, but was his personal pet, but he was given the citation anyway.
In the arms of an angel.
People, your dogs, your cats, your hamsters do not want to be painted or dyed. They don't want to be dressed up like little elves or Charlie Chaplin or Donald Trump or Flo from the Progressive Insurance commercials. No, it's degrading. And again, I will warn cat owners, could ultimately put you in harm's way because cats are devious and cunning little creatures, and they will have their revenge.
From the wreckage.
Reporting live from Florida.
Your silent
Well, I'm getting a little teary-eyed right now. My name is Cruze, and that is your
the angel.
Drinking News.
May you find drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news, drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. You know, I'm willing to bet that if any shows you go on to talk about your beer, we're the only one that has a live ukulele playing.
Yeah, this is
the
true.
show.
But I'm not gonna lie to you. My wife bought sequined and glittered cowboy hats for our cats.
See, why do people do? I don't understand the motivation.
She decided she was gonna train them.
Good luck with that, because
Right.
cats are so trainable.
Yeah, no, it didn't work out. But we still have the hats, so let me know if you
Okay.
want to borrow them.
I'll think of something. All right, so we're moving to double yellow roast. Now,
I
this
have-
just came out, right?
I have two cats, and one of them already hates me just for putting a collar on her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine dressing them up
she's
like
so
Charlie
mad.
Chaplin or something? You know, no, not good, not good. So, double yellow rose. This is relatively new, right?
Yeah, so we did double yellow rose for our 10th anniversary.
Oh,
This
anniversary.
is so beautifully good.
So we always do a big anniversary release. Typically, it's been barrel aged in the past. Like we did a Chardonnay barreled yellow rose. We've done the barley wine that we did last year that you didn't get, which I'll try and find something. And then
That sad Ian face you're seeing there.
right. So this year, we wanted to do something special, it being our 10th anniversary. So. We've been asked for years and years, yellow rose is so popular, why don't you do a double yellow rose? And so finally we did it. So we relented and listened and we did it, and it turned out great. So I'm really,
really
really
is
happy
good.
with it.
And
So it's not exactly double, right? So it's 10% ABV, so it's no slouch for sure, and it's 90 IBUs, where regular rose is 68. So
But what you did though is you captured, I think, just perfectly what yellow rose would taste like at this higher ABV. Like
Right.
it still has that balance to it, even though the balance happens up here.
I
instead of
love
down here. You know.
that it tamps down, because the higher ABV tamps down the bitter a little bit, and but you still have that full, like, there's a maltiness to the yellow rose that's undeniable.
So regular yellow rose is what 6.8, I think.
yeah. Well,
And
no,
so
it's
this
6
one's
point, it's 6.2. It's 6.8. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 6.8. Yes, and 62 IBUs.
Yeah, and 62 IBUs. So, and your double is 90 IBUs and 10%. So, yeah, that's good. Ian, this is your kind of this. Does this remind you of like a 90-minute or
I
something
broke
like
mine.
that? Yeah, I think you did.
No, it's great. I actually, I remember when I first saw it on a shelf, I bought it immediately and tried it and was absolutely loving it. Like, so, like I said, I'm not the IPA person, but there are certain IPAs when it's so good and so balanced. Like, I make the exception. Like, they're so good and so balanced. And I'm not sorry if it comes across as I'm the judge of your beer, but I'm not the be all end all judge of IPAs, because frankly, it's a style that I like only within certain boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's got to be like, it's got to have a balance, because I've had a lot of West Coast. I will tell you. So and you'll understand. It's like Stone IPAs,
Right.
were amazing. Where they sold? I don't know. I'm a little confused by that whole situation.
Yeah.
But they were amazing in that they
have
were
been,
exactly what they were
and
supposed
hopefully
to be.
will continue to be amazing.
And they were ridiculous. And some of them I liked, and some of them I didn't. But I love that about them. But there's a lot of IPAs out there that are just so unbalanced. Like, they're either so bitter that it's like, man, who cares about that? Or they just taste like orange juice or grapefruit.
So I feel like the early 90s, right, was kind of the arms race of IPAs.
Right.
So
Well, that's a good way to put it.
And so it was like, let's see how hoppy we can make this. And you had like the Pliny's of the world that were using extracts and sugars to really dry things out, and then using, hop extracts and other things to really pump up that hoppy bitterness. And you had Stone out there telling people, don't even drink this. It's so hoppy, you're not even going to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, you're not
And,
worthy.
it was on the label, They were like, we hate you. Don't buy our stuff.
Arrogant bastard.
Yeah.
You're not worthy. Remember that one?
Exactly. And so that was kind of the thing, right? And so that was not, we didn't want to have a kitsch beer. We wanted to make things that were balanced. And, we have Jabberwocky that's our, all the time double IPA. It's 114 IBUs. And people look at that and go, oh my God, that's got to be crazy. And you go, no, we'll drink it, because it's actually way more balanced than the numbers.
Jabberwocky's nice.
Numbers show,
Yeah.
right?
I love
So,
this.
yeah, this turned out great. If you like yellow rose, man, double yellow rose is just, it's bigger brother.
And it retains though the taste that lets
It's
you
like
know
it's
it's
like
still
Yellow Rose got some new sneakers. It's
Right.
faster, stronger, jumps higher.
Yeah. Speaking of new sneakers, by the way, this is random, but if you haven't watched it, you must watch the movie Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It's an animated stop motion animation.
So I had never
break your heart, and you will love life in a whole different way.
I had never even heard of
Am I
Marcel
right?
the
John's seen
Shell
it. I'm right, aren't I?
with shoes on until just a few weeks ago
Yeah.
when my sister was in town, and her kids apparently love that.
It
And she
started
was
as
showing
like
me
an
some
Instagram
shorts.
thing or something. Yeah.
And she said, and there's a movie out. I was like, this is hilarious that you're telling me that.
I'm just telling you, it'll change your life. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is it'll change your life.
That's quite
Kind of like Double Yellow Rose. It'll change your life.
It seems to me like it's one of those. It's going to be one of those pointless movies, like what's it? Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon
Oh
Dynamite.
no,
where
no,
it's
oh no, not at all, not at all. Just watch it. Just watch it. I'm serious.
noted. Okay.
It'll open your eyes and your heart in a way that you didn't realize needed to be open.
Now you know I'm not.
John is nodding. He's seen
You
it.
know I'm not comfortable. I only have two feelings, and they're anger and frustration.
Okay.
And when they get mixed up, man, shit gets weird, buddy. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no.
I hate to open that up too much.
Then you, in fact, need to spend about an hour and 28 minutes with Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. That's what you need. That's what you need. I can't believe I went there, but I'm telling you, folks, you will not regret
Marcel
it.
the Shell.
Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Yeah. All right. So back to beer. This is just
See, we
wonderful.
tackle the hard
Yeah, I know. So I was
tackle
really
tough
thinking about
questions.
like
topics.
I can't even imagine what this is about. This movie.
Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Yeah.
It's just about the shell with one eye, and he goes through life and tries to maintain a positive attitude, and it's challenging.
Yeah. The whole How to Train Your Octopus or whatever. Did you see the octopus documentary where the guy lives with an octopus?
My
free or
Octopus
whatever?
teacher.
I've seen that.
I thought that was great.
I haven't watched it, but I've seen the little clip from
It's
it.
like
so did
heartbreaking.
you like
man.
it?
Just totally,
Okay,
of
so if
course
you
love
like
it,
that-
but it just totally ruins you on like marine biology because, spoiler alert, it doesn't turn out well.
Okay, but if you liked that, you will love Marcel the Show with Shoes On.
Does
Even
it
though it's very different.
glom to his face like what are those things on Star Trek?
No, it's kind of, we're talking about the octopus.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The octopus.
no,
Does it
no.
glom to his face like those Star
I
Trek?
thought you were talking about
Yeah.
Marcel the Shell. No, he doesn't.
Oh
either.
no, sorry. We're getting mixed up here.
Yeah, we are. But see, this is what and
Corzo works.
Here's the reason that I don't mind this is because this is what happens when you have beers and spirits and you have these kind of discussions. These are the best discussions. This is what life's about, in my opinion, and life's also about Double Yellow Rose. I've
Double
decided.
Yellow Rose
I've
is
decided.
so good.
Yeah. So this is great. Now at this point, you got Double Yellow Rose. You've got. Remind me what you were saying a minute ago that is your other IPA that
Yellow Rose?
your other double.
667?
No.
Oh,
you-
Jabberwocky.
the
Jabberwocky. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So you got Yellow Rose, you got Jabberwocky, you got occasionally 667.
Uh-huh.
Will you guys continue to try different IPAs?
Yeah, so that's part of what our Zythophile series is, right? So once a quarter we do an IPA with it's a single hopped IPA, and we either pick something that is kind of a classic hop that we think everybody should try, like we did Centennial not too long ago, which has been kind of a hop standard for a very, very long time. It's one of the big C's. But sometimes, we do experimental stuff with hops that aren't even named yet, or things that we work very closely with our hop distributor and try and find kind of new and up-and-coming things that it gives us an opportunity to try. So, we're obviously going to continue doing the IPA stuff. But we're also doing a lot of other things. I mean, we have a Berliner Weiss that's going to be coming out.
Oh, fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I brewed a bunch of that last week. It's a very kind of innovative deal because we're using a yeast that produces the sourness instead of souring it with bacteria.
Oh,
So that's kind of a cool,
How fun.
a cool new deal.
Backwards.
And like these experimental quarterly IPAs that you're doing, and something like this Berliner Weiss, will that show up at retail, or do we have to come to the brewery for that?
So almost everything we do on a large scale goes to retail. We do have a lot of tap room only stuff, like our small barrel batch stuff, like the bourbon barrel undead that we're about to try. That's tap room only. But for the most part, most of our things come all the way to market. But there's always neat and interesting and experimental stuff at the brewery. So we do encourage people to come up and try some of that. But we'll try the
All right. Well, let's get
bourbon
into
barrel
this.
undead next. So
Let's get into this last one here.
So Undead is named after Undead Head Ed, which is a buddy of ours, Ed Condon, who's a large home brewing inspiration for a lot of people in the area. But this is a ghost pepper porter that we use a couple of pounds of ghost chilies making it. We use some in the boil, and then we make a tea out of some. And then this one has actually been aged for 14 months on Yellow Rose Outlaw bourbon barrels.
Oh, nice.
So we'll give this a shot and see what you guys
All
think
right.
about this.
So while you're pouring this, let me ask you this question. When you guys started in the garage, was it a hobby that turned into a business? Or did you start out thinking, you know what I want to do is I want to learn to brew and do a brewery?
No, so it definitely started out as a hobby, and my wife and her brother, he had been homebrewing since college, and she decided that she was in oil and gas. She decided she didn't like her job anymore. She wanted to go out and start a franchise or something, and she got talking to her
So
brother.
it was Subway or this, right?
Right. So she was talking to her brother Trevor, and he said, "Look, I've been brewing for a long time. I think we could do a brewery." And
this was what year?
so this was, oh man, so we actually started in 2012. So this is probably like 2004
Wow.
or so. And so they started brewing every weekend in the garage, and they basically took Trevor's garage and turned it into a 20-gallon brewery, and they brewed every weekend. And we were all part of a running club together. And so Heather and I met and I had been homebrewing on my own. And so it was kind of one of those things where she was like, "Oh, I'm starting a brewery." I'm like, "Oh, I'm starting a brewery." And but we were both quite far from starting a brewery.
Right.
But her and Trevor were light years beyond where I was. So we all got together and kind of had this shared passion of brewing and running, and we had a lot of stuff that we did in common. So it just kind of worked out. And
That's so cool.
And it grew into something, and we kept our day jobs for a year and a half. We worked all week and then brewed on weekends.
Worked all week and brewed all weekend.
Yeah, and then we'd brew all weekend and then go back to work on Monday, and we went like that for a long time until we were able to kind of phase ourselves out and start paying ourselves, which is always the goal when you start a new business, right?
Right, sure. So around what time did bottles of Yellow Rose become available at retail?
So we started the brewery. We shipped our first kegs November 30th of 2012. And the first keg, actually, it's heartbreaking. It went to Griff's. Which burned
did you
down
hear
this
about
week.
Griff's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sad.
We had a very good friend of ours that worked there, and so we did our first keg ever at Griff's. It was a keg of 667.
Nice.
And on November 30th, 2012. And so about a year and a half after that, we started in the 750 milliliter like champagne style bottles. And Yellow Rose was one of the early ones to that. So I would say probably 2014 or so without going back and really looking at it, but it was around that time.
It's amazing to me, if you look at a journey like this, because this wasn't necessarily a journey where you said, we're going to take over the beer world. You were just passionate about making beer that you loved and making it available to people. And I think that's, to me, it's what the craft beer thing really has become about. And that's not to knock the people who went into it to make money. That's fine. If you make good beer and people like it and you make money, more power to you. But I love the, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like the music thing, I don't begrudge certain bands that become insanely popular.
Sure.
But some of my favorites aren't very popular at all.
Well, so that's it. There's a tough line. If you're a brewery or a band, the problem is when it's yours, when it belongs to you, when you are like hey, there's this place that I know of, and you don't know about it, but I'm going to introduce you to it. That's a personal thing. Like, I can bring you and show you this, and then the problem is when that becomes ubiquitous. Then all of a sudden you feel a little betrayed because that used to be yours. You know what I mean? And
Sure, right.
I think,
and now if everybody knows about it, it's not as cool.
well, yeah, and then suddenly it's not as cool. Suddenly it's sold out or whatever.
Right.
But the truth is, like, I want you guys to grow. I want you guys to be awesome. And you know what? If someone comes up with the letter B,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got to buy me lunch.
But,
That's it.
absolutely.
All I ask is to be
You know what I'm
invited to
saying?
the party. That's all.
You're just buying me lunch.
And it will be a hell of a party. Then we'll start another little brewery that does even better
Right. See,
stuff.
That's what I'm
that's
talking about.
totally the way to do
And
it.
so,
It's
so
totally the way to do it.
there's fun involved in that, and then, but the truth is, I love where you guys are right now. Like this, by the
Okay.
way, this is what I drank the entire night.
All right. So
Well, I may have started off with a couple of Gentleman's Relish, but this is what I drank the entire night last time I was out there.
So I got to speak to this because this is significant for me.
Yep.
This is the first beer with a pepper flair to it, with pepper in it, that I would actually go out and pay money and buy. I am just not a fan of this particular genre. I have a tendency to say things like, I like my food spicy, I like to wash it down with good beer. But this is delicious. And it does not overdo the pepper is there, but it doesn't just like run like a train wreck through your taste buds. And I love that.
And that's why I did it last. It's one of those things that you drink on a cold day, and it's Texas and
Yeah. We get about 3 of those.
Yeah, right.
We've already had 2 of them. There'll be one more before
on the
spring.
next one. Drink this, and
No,
it's
but-
got that nice
but
warming
seriously,
after a pint, but you don't get that spice. Like
No.
it's not a gimmick.
And to me, like I will tell you, the worst beer I've ever tasted was the Dos Equis Mexican IPA, or Mexican Pale Ale. I'm sorry, Mexican Pale Ale. It's so infused with pepper that it's undrinkable in my opinion. And listen, I'll drink some pretty bad beers and still enjoy them.
Yeah.
But I thought this was just undrinkable. And I just have a thing, even like No Labels, like their
What's the name of that one? Oh,
they
the
do
Don
Don
Jalapeno.
Jalapeno.
yeah, Don Jalapeno. Like I enjoy
Has to do with the
tasting it.
hatch.
Yeah. I enjoy tasting it, but it's not something I
So
would
I'll be
ever
honest,
go.
that's
Let me buy a 6-pack of that. You know,
that's one I love telling. I love telling the guys this when
we had them on.
we
Yeah,
were talking to them. That's one that I bought because I was like, well, it's interesting. I don't usually like spicy in my drink.
Mm-hmm.
I like savory is okay, but not
Yes.
spicy in my drink. I love spicy food, like spicy
Mm-hmm.
food, not spicy drink. This is very different. And
Yes.
this is one that's very different. But the Don Jalapeno is a funny story because I bought a 6-pack of that when it very first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did it have the jalapeno, like,
yes, it's strong. It's
Big time.
strongly peppery.
and I
Strong
drank a
jalapeno.
bottle of it. I went,
Strong
"Mm,
jalapeno.
probably not going to do that. But then my wife came home from the grocery store and she had some brats. And let me tell you about the perfect thing.
The Don Jalapeno.
You cook some brats, you boil them in Don Jalapeno, and then you finish them on the grill.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And my wife's a huge fan of Don Jalapeno, but she also loves the. Have you ever had the Ghostface Killer? It's made by Twisted Pine.
I
out of
haven't
Colorado.
had that. No, I
It's a total gimmick beer. You can only drink like a half
Yeah.
a shot of it. She's the
No,
only
it's
person.
too much. It's too much.
She's the only person on the planet that I know that can drink
Of course,
a full
it's
pint.
Ghostface,
And,
right?
yeah, and so my wife Heather's an amazing person, but holy cow, this is hot. And it's such a gimmick, but just one sip and you need a glass of water to put it out.
To
Right,
drown
so-
out the beer.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of spicy beers. This I couldn't believe. Like, this is so good, and you can taste the chili
It's
in
fabulous.
there.
It's
But
fabulous.
it's chili
though.
flavor with a kiss of heat.
But it doesn't
Eureka
leave
Heights
that-
makes their. They make one that's spicy as well. That's interesting.
Oh, it's
and
got the udders on it or something.
they,
Oh yes, Mu
Yeah.
Caliente.
That's right.
Mu
that's right.
Caliente. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love those guys.
Yeah,
guys are awesome.
dude. Like Joel's a good friend of mine, man. I love those guys. He's been on the show a couple times too. So.
Casey's good people.
Yeah,
you know,
Casey's
those folks.
fun. But yeah, Mu Caliente is one of those, and that's right on the edge for me. Like, there's almost a little more heat than I want in a drink, but it's pretty good, and especially some of the barrel aged ones that they've done. This right here, though, is on another level. This is
So I think that the unaged version is a little bit warmer. I think some of the capsaicin comes out in the barrel. But you definitely there's no vanilla or chocolate in this.
when I was there.
There's
Well,
all
'cause
of
you
that's
get-
coming from the barrel.
I was going to say you get all of that on.
You get
on
so
the palate.
much. Yeah.
When I was there, you had two different barrels, though. You had the bourbon barrel, and you had a different barrel of the same thing.
That's why you got to come see us at the brewery.
What was the other barrel? Port barrel?
Yeah, we've done some port barrel stuff. We actually have Tornado Shark coming up in peach brandy barrels.
Ooh, that should be
So
interesting.
I have that carbonating right now in my cold room. So that's
man.
that's on the docket.
That sounds fun.
So can you come back on the show when that's ready?
Yeah, in fact, I'm also we're also doing a Jabberwocky with Thai chilies and lemongrass.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that should be interesting too.
So, what other styles of beer would you like to see you guys venture into? Things that you haven't done yet that you'd like to do?
Man, I don't know. You know, we're always looking at different stuff, and we did a white stout last year that was popular. That and I don't know. I just people are like, oh, you must always drink your beer when you go out to bars, and it's like, no, I drink everybody else's beer because you're always looking for different ideas,
Inspiration
and
and
things,
stuff, yeah.
and
So
man,
maybe
there's a lot of popular stuff that I just don't get.
Yeah.
But every once in a while you see something and you're like, oh, that's amazing. I want to learn more about that. And that's the fun part about beer is that there's so much to learn, and there's
so much to try.
there's so much to try. Yeah, and you can take it in 100 different directions. Whether it's really diving into quality assurance or making sure that scientifically we have perfect clean beer, or you can go into the different styles, and there's always a different place to find more knowledge and inspiration. And I think that's what we're always kind of looking for.
Absolutely
I love
love it. All right, so we're going to take a break and we'll come back to wrap the show up. But let me just encourage you guys to keep like plowing forward, like continue to discover and try these new and crazy things, because to me that's what makes you guys unique, in my opinion. That and the Yellow Rose.
Well, 10 years in, we're still excited and we still love what we do. And we're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Love that. We are going someplace. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Welcome back. Smoking and Toasting. It's our program that has gone. I was going to mention this at the top of the show, and I didn't. This is episode number 311. 311, as you know, is a rock and roll band out of the Midwest.
I think that's new
I'm
metal.
down.
And they chose their name because I think where they're from, the police code 311 means loud and obnoxious.
Oh, I thought it was indecent exposure.
Well, it is in some places. I was reading about this as I was setting up doing the show. It means different things in different areas of the country.
Well, we didn't have the internet when they came out.
Right. So everybody kind of had their own thing. 311 would mean
guessed.
something different in one place. In some places, it means indecent exposure. In some places, it means loud and obnoxious. And in, I think, California, it means drug and
It
disorderly.
causes cancer in lab rats.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But whatever
I
it
just
means,
assume everything in California causes cancer in lab rats.
well, as Ian likes to say about California, it's a state that really has their act together, because in California you can smoke anywhere that you want to, as long as it's not inside or outside.
Yes. Anywhere else.
Other than that, you're all good.
Freedom, baby.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. No, we pick on California, but we did a great show there.
That was a
it was one of the
blast.
most fun shows we've ever done. Actually, it was in the Beverly Hills Cigar Lounge.
We did it in the
California.
loft of this
Yeah, it was awesome.
cigar lounge. It
And
was
the
so
people
cool.
downstairs, like, they had no idea what we were all about.
Okay, no, when I
I'm
say they had
surprised
no
even
idea,
agreed.
they're not like, oh, what are those guys doing? No, like these people were on a level where they didn't even understand what a podcast, what
Right,
any
right.
kind of like,
Right.
they were
And
like,
we're
"Are you
upstairs,
from a
we're
TV
drinking, we're
program?"
smoking. It's
No.
like, yeah. But that's LA for you,
We haven't had radio in LA in 300 years.
Yeah, that's right. I've been to LA, and I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's true. Man, we sure want to thank you. Blake Niederhofer's been our guest today from Lone Pint Brewery, Magnolia, Texas. I got to tell you, we are, as I'm sure you can tell, we're huge fans of what you guys do. We love it. We want you to keep experimenting. We want you to keep trying new things. Ian wants you to try a barley wine. I want you to keep trying wacky, crazy new hops. This is part of what makes all this so much fun. What to me makes this isn't just about I like to drink,
You
although
could do
I
a
do.
big burly porter too. I
Yeah,
like those.
I love
Yeah,
porters,
so
yeah.
technically this is a porter.
I was going to ask if it was, because it kind of goes down like a porter.
So Ed
You know
calls
I
it,
love
Ed,
this.
Ed
right?
calls
Am
it a
I drinking
porter.
the rest of this? Does anybody else need some?
And if Ed Condon's listening, we all know it's not really a porter.
Yeah, well, the reality is it drinks a lot like a porter.
Well, a porter
does.
is like a stout light, right?
Right. But the
Like
thing about
technically.
porter,
Say that.
what? Say again.
Well, I said they say that, but there's a lot. It goes
See,
into.
I actually almost prefer porters to stouts because there's a more nuance to the flavor, in my opinion. Stouts, I get it. I love stout. I love a great stout, but there's something about a porter, like the 512 Pecan Porter out of Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That is a sensational beer.
That's pretty good beer.
I think it's awfully good. Do you like it? You got quiet, so I
He's
wonder if
giving
it's
you
not a
the-
beer you like.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not one that I drink a lot, but I've had it and it is a solid beer. I don't drink a lot of porters, to be
Yeah.
completely honest.
I don't either, but when I do,
So when
I
it
don't
gets
often drink porter.
See,
but
so
when
I
do-
love.
when it gets super duper cold, I'm a big heavy stout, like pours like oil kind of.
So
stout
check it
kinda
out.
guy.
You're Ian's brother.
When it
in
gets
kind.
cold, I love ESBs, porters, barley wines, and stouts, and kind of in that order.
Yeah, I love Imperial.
When
IPAs
it's hot
when it's cold.
outside, I love ESBs, porters, stouts, barley wines, and when it's tepid outside, I like ESBs, porters,
So
barley wine.
Here's
You get
what,
the idea.
Yellow Rose.
Here's what you have to take.
I do actually love the Yellow Rose.
But here's what you have to take away from this: the guy on the show, me, that is like an IPA fanatic, picks yours as one of the best ever.
Well, I very much
And the
appreciate that.
guy who is not an IPA fanatic picks yours as one of the best ever. I mean, that's a pretty.
It is pretty
Not that
sensational.
our endorsement matters, but that's still pretty.
Well, I mean, mine
that's still
does.
pretty. Well, not that my endorsement matters. Ian's does. Yes.
Mine does.
Yeah. Because he's Ian. No, listen. If I could say one thing to you, it's like, please keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I had a
because
blast.
it brings us great joy.
And I hope to come back and share some of our new stuff with you guys.
I would love
like
for
I
you
said,
to do
we've
that.
got-
In fact, anytime you got something new,
All right.
just contact Mary and go, hey, we got something new. Well, let's bring it on the show and bring some of the old stuff, and we'll
Sit around and get
enjoy
drunk.
it and sit around and get drunk, and we'll
all
do,
Uber home.
We'll do drinking news, and we'll have a good time. As you can tell, we have plenty of detours that we are totally willing to take during the show. So
Absolutely.
it is what it is. Ian, I just want to say, brother, I appreciate you.
I love and appreciate you.
Yeah. And thank you
Here,
so much for
gentlemen.
being
Thank you so
here,
much for
man.
having me.
Sir.
Thank you. This has been a great show. Thank you to everyone for coming along with us for number 311, Indecent Exposure, and cheers.
We're down,
y'all.
down.